Hello, and welcome to the Skiffy and Fanny Show's Torture Cinema!
Sometimes I feel like I need a vacation. Sometimes I feel like I wanna go to the city of cavemen, the city of bedrock. I'd be a Flintstone, now I'll tell you why.
I don't wanna feel like I did that day.
Yabba-dabba-dabba-doo now. All right.
Oh,
no.
Lordy. That is the second, I think, singing we've done since I moved to Iowa. Because the last time I did it with Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny for Christmas. So.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Well,
is there a correlation to Iowa?
You know what? I think we're just...
I'm unaware of?
We're just leaning into the power of the musical to heal our broken hearts in times of strife.
This may be it.
Because I did the same thing in COVID. When COVID hit, I watched so many musicals during COVID. Because Andrew Lloyd Webber was like releasing them all and like, watch this thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch all of them. Phantom of the Opera? Hell yeah. That one that we probably shouldn't watch because it's not actually that good, which is the sequel to Phantom of the Opera. I'll watch that one too. So, anyway, I'm Shaun.
Anyway, I'm Daniel.
I'm Julia.
And, well, that's not my line. That's
we're
you,
all
Daniel.
wondering.
Yeah.
We're all wondering if we're living in an alternate reality from hell right now, or perhaps we're all wishing we could travel back to some other alternate reality, or perhaps we're all now working or endeavoring to create an alternative, better reality right here where we are. Regardless, the theme for this month's Torture Cinema was alternate realities.
And thanks to Un Chiquito Palito, a.k.a. Paul Weimer, a.k.a. Emperor Trajan, the immortal, we have been forced to watch 1994's The Flintstones, directed by Brian Levant and written by Tom S. Parker, Jim Genevine, Stephen E. D'Souza, and based on the 1960 to 1966 animated television series of the same name by Hanna-Barbera. The film stars an absolutely stellar cast featuring John Goodman, Rick Moranis, Elizabeth Perkins, Rosie O'Donnell, Kyle MacLachlan, Halle Berry, and Elizabeth Taylor in her final theatrical appearance. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 23% on the tomato meter and has a 25% on the popcorn meter, which are scientific measures for films, as you all know. And on IMDb, it languages at a flat 5 out of 10 like a giant rancid pile of dino dung.
This film was selected by our Patreon supporters based on a poll of terrible alternate history films. We had a 3-way tie in voting, but then Paul had to go and ruin our lives by breaking the tie in favor of this modern prehistoric mess. If you're not yet subscribed to our Patreon, please join for as little as $1 US a month and get a chance to suggest future torture for us. Force it upon us by voting in upcoming polls, and even join us watching live on Discord.
Can I just take a pause and just note, we do really love Paul.
Yes.
We're blaming Paul for this, but in fairness, Paul, it was your turn because last time we blamed Steven, because it was Steven's fault last time.
We're blaming Paul for this, but I kind of feel like Shaun is actually pro Flintstones movie, so I don't know why we're blaming Paul.
I'm just going to tell you right now, I love this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No.
I could tell. You seem like
God.
you love it. Okay.
It's stupid, but I love it. I don't care.
So there's all this like hyperbole about how Paul has ruined our lives, but Shaun actually loves the movie, so Paul didn't ruin anyone's life.
Yeah, Andrea was there, one of our Patreon supporters, watching with me on Monday, and she will confirm how I felt during the entire film, mostly, except when it was actually legitimately stupid and I didn't like it. But that's another problem for another day. So
I'm so curious about what is legitimately stupid to you.
Oh, we're going to get to it. Don't you worry.
We'll find out.
So before we dive into the mess that is this film, let's get to what beverages we are drinking. As a reminder, always drink responsibly. Alcohol is not required for this podcast. People may imbibe. You are not required to drink alcohol when you watch bad movies either. You can drink whatever you like, but whatever you do, drink responsibly and don't do anything stupid like getting behind the wheel of a car.
Don't drink and pedal. Like
I wouldn't do
Fred
that
Flintstone
either
says.
because that's, I think, also technically operating something while
It is.
intoxicated. Anyway, just don't do it. Just be smart. Sit on the couch, eat Cheetos.
They say in the movie not to drink and pedal. There's like a whole thing about
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Which they shouldn't, even though I'm pretty sure Fred does. I'm just
That
saying.
Fred.
Yeah, after the bowling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That thing of beer is massive, and they all are shoving their heads in it.
It wasn't beer, was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was some weird random
Oh,
juice.
got
or
it. It was
something.
dinosaur pee. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, anyway, Julia, what are you drinking today?
I am, as a nod to the Flintstones, drinking herbal tea out of my stoneware mug, which is in the shape of a cat, and I hold it by its tail.
Hold on just a second. When you put a little pause when you said stoneware mug, is it a stoneware mug or a stoneware mug, which is some sort of...
It's a mug that is made of stoneware because it's this Flintstones podcast. So it's a stoneware mug.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It is stoneware. It's
Not a
ceramic,
stoneware mug.
No, it's a
Well,
stoneware
speaking-
mug.
Speaking of a little pause on things, are those little paws?
Yeah.
That are
It's,
on that
like I
mug
said,
then
it's
as
a
well?
shaped like a cat, has paws and a
Aw.
face, and the handle is the tail. It's
That is
adorable.
awesome.
It is adorable.
And it's made of stoneware. It's not made of bone china like Wilma's china.
Ah, bone china. Gosh, that stuff is really rare these days.
Well, they had a lot of fresh mastodon bone, I guess.
That's true.
So, I mean, I feel like we'll get into more about that later, but let's keep going. Daniel, what are you drinking?
I had meant to have something on the rocks in keeping with the movie, but I actually didn't have time to get ice before heading down here to start recording. So I just have Calvados, just straight.
Oh,
Do you have
Neat.
any rocks nearby that you can drop in there? Just
Do I? Oh, I actually do. I have Rock On,
yeah.
or maybe actually this is Stone Dar, I think. So I could
Just drop that right into
transform
your.
Stone Dar into a rock and drop him in.
no, please don't actually drop him in. I don't think that'd be good. But also, Daniel, you are such a nerd.
A drunk Stone Dar would not be good.
What
about you, Shaun?
Well, hold on. About the only thing more nerdy than Daniel pulling out his He-Man toys would be like if Paul starts showing us all of the like weird Roman memorabilia he has when he was emperor, which he hasn't done yet. But Paul, you got to step up your game.
That would be awesome. I want to see it.
I want to see it. It sounds awesome. Anyway, for me, I'm drinking out of my Portland Project Speculative Literature Foundation mug some ginger and honey with a little lemon tea that my wife made from special ginger honey that she got from Vietnam. I don't know what's actually in it other than ginger and honey, so it could be anything at all. But I was recently ill, and so I am drinking things that'll help my throat so that I don't cough to death while we're doing this.
Sounds delicious and nutritious.
Yeah,
Sounds good for you.
it is.
Healing of the soul as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Let me just say. So, Julia, for reasons I don't know, you have been earmarked to do the summary, and it says here in the script to do it as in an imitation of Harvey Korman as the voice of Dictabird. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're not gonna do that, but you will summarize it.
I will summarize. I don't think that I'm equal to the task of being Harvey Korman, because he is a true vocal talent and one of the bright spots of this movie. But yes, this movie, The Flintstones 1994, is a movie-length version, live action, of basically what we are hoping would be the sitcom brought to life Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble are neighbors and best friends who work together at a quarry. And then Fred gets roped into being a vice president of the quarry company, and his friendship with Barney suffers because of that. And also, Special Agent Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks is actually secretly the villain, and he is actually just using Fred to embezzle a bunch of money. Everything blows up in everyone's faces, quite literally, honestly. And there's some kidnapping plot with the children at the end. There are lots of animatronic creatures and convoluted things that don't make a lot of sense, but lots and lots of sitcom callbacks, both visually, verbally, and also just relentless sight gags as well. So yeah, that's what it is. It does have an all-star cast. Like, you cannot go 2 seconds without seeing another superstar.
Yeah.
Even the BC-52s.
Yes.
BC-52s. Oh my god. I was just waiting for them to, like, instead of Love Shack, it'd just be like, Rock Shack or something like that. Just something silly like that. But they sang their own a thing originally for this, and then they did the theme song, the Flintstones theme song, in the credits, which is nice of them to do for the money
and
they
in
were
the middle
paid.
of the film too.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's also a Jetsons bit in here as well. If you remember the ice cream truck that Barney does, that is in there.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that. We have people in our Discord. Andrew, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Go
how
in
did
the
they not
Twitch.
do
Go in the Twitch and type in there. What are you doing?
Rock Lobster, big missed opportunity.
Sorry, people
I did
won't be able to
remind.
see them.
Oh no, we need to read this outlet. I did remind Shaun that he also loves Mac and Me. So we have to take his perspective with a grain of salt. This is a very good thing to remember, everyone.
This is truth.
Danny, you've not even seen Mac and Me, so you can't even speak.
I've seen Mac and Me.
When? Give me the date and time.
The date and time? I cannot do.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
I've seen it twice.
I don't believe you. You would know the date and time that you saw Mac and Me for the first time. Yeah.
I remember my mother rented it for me from the local pharmacy and brought it home on tape and said that the person working at the pharmacy recommended it as a good kids movie to watch.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
And then I threw the tape back and it was like, what is this? I was very disappointed and upset.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but if you say so. Okay, well, we got to get to likes and dislikes, because that's the only measure we can really do. Annie is now in the correct place at the moment, and so I have decided that Daniel will start us off on this nightmare. So give me a legitimate like, Daniel. Go.
All right. I'll leave the Harvey Korman to go, and I will say that I do like all of the callbacks to the show in terms of the creatures doing the random tasks of around the house, like the water for washing the dishes, the garbage disposal unit underneath the sink. What are some of the other ones even in the movie per se? In the show, I know there's like a dinosaur vacuum cleaner. I don't think that was in the movie.
The vending machine bird?
Yeah, the vending machine. There's a bird at some point that did something too. Anyway, I love... Oh, there's the bird airplane. That's one of my favorite parts of the TV show, I would say. And I just always found that cute / adorable and kind of funny. And so I definitely enjoyed those callbacks to the show and the use of that in the show. I enjoyed the puns, both the verbal ones, and there were a lot of signs, like they had a record of Bruce Springsteen in their house, which I had wanted to play the entire song, Bruce Springsteen singing Meet the Flintstones, but it was way too long, and Shaun told me I wasn't allowed to do that for the start of the episode. So I liked those references from the shows a lot. The visual gag of where like Fred jumps up in the air and freezes like the cartoon.
With his feeties.
I didn't care for that as much because that was a little too merging the cartoon into the live action. But love those little creatures.
Except I feel bad for the like pig garbage disposal one.
Yeah.
Right? Because like,
I mean, he's living his life. He likes eating.
Yeah,
right?
But like, isn't he at one point like there's a homeless camp that's in this, and isn't he in there basically like asking for work?
Because they got rid of him, yeah.
Yeah, what's the issue? How is he not doing his job? Because he's eating whatever they throw down, and then I don't. Anyway, it's just mean, and they're so mean to him.
They are, and I mean, it seems that he's just done his job really well, but they're giving a lot of refuse and waste to him, and like, I don't know, willy-nilly throwing down forks down the drain that are getting stuck in his throat and things like that. So
yeah,
he's not very well loved.
No.
He should be more well loved for what he or she, I don't really know, gender of the garbage disposal unit, needs to
poor thing.
doing a good job.
Yeah.
But I in terms of those, I didn't just still enjoy the reference to those from the show, but I liked how they did them. The animatronics, the puppetry. I like that way better than like trying to CGI them or something like that. So that was definitely a strong like for the movie for me. And a cuteness of it that I appreciated as opposed to that just kind of annoyed me.
Okay. Would you say your favorite is the Dictabird?
The Dictabird was awesome, yes. I did really love the Dictabird.
I wondered why he doesn't run.
Because the Dictabird was like sassy too.
Yeah, but why isn't he running the place? He clearly knows more than anybody else, right? He could clearly run the business. So I don't get it.
Right.
I don't understand why he's not in charge, other than he's an animal and the humans need to be in charge.
He's a bird, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's smart. I put him in charge of development or something, or I don't know, something more important.
Well, and
the accounts.
The monkey was better than, was it an orangutan?
Oh, the orangutan?
The orangutan was like more intelligent on the test than probably most of the human workers or many of them.
No, here's what's funny.
Why aren't they higher up?
Fred literally got the worst score in the test, right? Which means the orangutan did smarter than him.
Well,
Correct.
If you look at when they're taking the test, Barney tries to cheat off of the orangutan's paper.
Or it's Fred. It's Fred who does it? Isn't it, Fred?
I thought it was Barney, but maybe I'm wrong.
I just remember the orangutan covering up.
Yeah, covering his paper because he's like, I know what you're doing and you're not going to do this.
Because that's part of the plot, right? Is this whole bit in the middle where Kyle MacLachlan's character has come up with this, like, we're going to do a management test, basically, to see if any of the people in the quarry could, like, be up there. Because they're looking for a patsy, right? They're looking for somebody who they can basically frame. So they're looking for, the plot of this doesn't make sense, but they're looking for somebody who's not very smart that they can basically trick. And
yet they're also looking for the person who gets the highest score on it.
Yeah.
So that confused me.
Yes, this gets into some of the things that I dislike about this movie.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so they do the test, and then there's the whole bit where like Barney realizes Fred did all the wrong answers, and then like they switches them out because he wants to do his friend a solid, because he wants to pay back Fred for the fact that Fred lent them money so that they could adopt Bam Bam.
Yeah.
Bam, bam.
I kind of hoped that they would secretly have adopted the chimpanzee baby, or the orangutan baby, since they don't have chimpanzees.
The orangutan. Baby,
that was for the Hendersons.
That's right, the Hendersons.
When they said that, I thought they were going to do a gag with Harry and the Hendersons, and it was going to be a Sasquatch.
That was the gag. The gag was that the Hendersons are not humans; they're little primates.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Monkeys.
Okay, so maybe we should move to Julia now. What is your like about this movie?
So
Julia?
my like is very similar to Daniel's like. I really, I think the thing that makes this movie so fascinating and like to the extent that it holds up, what makes it hold up is that they paid so much attention to every detail, and they really took care to make very solid sets. The entire town of Bedrock is a practical set. It's real. Everything in it is made to look like it is made of stone, bone, or leather. There's no other material. So like they really went for the whole that we're living in a prehistoric time, and the items that they have access to are stone, bone, and leather. And if it's not an animal product or stone, they don't have it. There is no metal. There is no fabric. Like all of their stuff is made of leather, which I thought was fascinating. And then like all of the callbacks to the sitcom and all of the references to other things that were relevant to the time period of the movie. So like 1994, which I would say 80s and 90s really. There were a lot of things that it called back to there with both puns and also like visual gags. Like for instance, when they went to the movie theater and they saw Tar Wars, or even from the beginning of the movie when it opens up over a picture of the Earth, which Universal usually does, but instead of having continents, it just has one Pangea sort of continent, and it says Universal. Because of course it's before Universal, it's prehistoric times. So they really went for everything being as detailed as possible, and I think partly this is because Brian Levant, the director, was obsessed with the Flintstones. Like I saw a little interview he did where he like showed off his Flintstones collection, which he had apparently had before he directed this movie. And like they really, really went the extra mile to make it really, really the Flintstones. And I thought that was fascinating. I love that they used Jim Henson's Creature Workshop to make the animals, because, you know, if that movie were made today, they would just kind of be the cheapest CGI we could get and then done. And everything would just kind of feel not real because it wouldn't be real. But this is all real. Real people spent a meaningful amount of time designing and creating every single object in this movie.
Yeah.
And that is pretty cool.
This was going to be my life.
That's a great point. I'll give you time to think of another, Shaun.
Yeah.
Just to say that it made, as you were going through that, it made me think of when I started watching this movie. I was expecting the movie to be like utterly, utterly terrible. In fact, I wrote the script that we read earlier before I had even watched the movie, right? And so I was blaming Paul for things I didn't know whether I would really like or not. And sorry, Paul. We do love you, Paul.
Are you sure?
But
are you sure you love Paul?
I do. At the start of the movie, I was like, this movie is great. It really does feel like the cartoon come to life, and it still has all the charm to it. And it was that attention to detail, but then all of a sudden the plot came. And the plot just got in the way of my enjoyment of everything else that was going on, of just enjoying the cuteness of this all in live action. So that totally makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things I said when we watched this in the Discord was just kind of what Julia said. They have like committed to the bit to such an extreme degree. I mean, I was even saying like the opening shot, right, with the dinosaurs and the Brontosaurus is kind of in the background, which I couldn't tell if they were like real or like miniatures or like just very giant puppets. Right, that opening shot is like brilliant. It's such a good shot. It feels very real. And then the more we get into the world, the more they just like commit to this cartoon world come to life. And it's visually a very stunning film because everything just seems to work visually. And I love that attention they gave to the details of the world. Everything from the set design, as Julie, you were saying, to like all the little like physical bits that they do, right? They literally build like a bowling alley for them to bowl in with bowling balls that look like they were just roughly hewn out of stone. And
the balls and the pins are all made out of stone because they don't have wood, apparently.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant.
Though they do have grass.
Yeah,
to, like, do well manicured lawns.
They do
with
have
the
grass,
little
and they have a little lawnmower that is a little lobster, perhaps.
Yeah.
Some sort of lobster
Trims
bug
the grass.
creature that chops the
Who
grass.
also works in the bowling alley putting down
Yeah,
the pins,
that's right.
I think.
Mhm.
They do double duty.
It's just brilliant. I just love the attention to detail, and it makes me miss films like kind of what you were saying, Julia, that just really want most of the world to be physical. The only CG things here are a handful of animation shots with Dino, who is only doing it for these very brief moments, and they're surprisingly really good CG, but otherwise they use like an animatronic puppet thing to do any of the physical shots that need to be done to make him more realistic. And it's I just can't imagine doing, like, you're right, Julie, if they did this today, they would not spend all of this money to
If
do
they
this.
did this today, those actors would all be wearing the special suits to have everything that they do done against CGI and a green screen.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. Like, I mean, to be fair, it would be really fun to watch, like, Andy Serkis crawling around in a blue suit licking people. That would bring me joy. But I don't know. He's getting a little
We don't
old.
have Mel Blanc to do the voice anymore.
Oh,
That's
but
true.
they didn't. They used archival Mel Blanc, so that
Yes,
was
yeah. Oh, that wasn't him. That was archival.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would still be able to use Mel Blanc because they were using Mel
Okay.
Blanc from the 60s.
I mean, he only makes so many noises, so.
And he wasn't credited in the theatrical release. He was only credited on video
Oh, wow.
because it wasn't like they had the real Mel Blanc come into the studio to lay down Dino tracks. They were just using recordings.
Yeah, that's not. They should still have credited him, but
I'm glad they eventually did.
yeah. Look, visually the film's great, but now we have to get into why I'm
What
wrong.
is your like?
And I have to come up
Well,
with
no, we
another
need
like.
a-
That's right.
You've just been like agreeing with the
Well,
likes.
Yeah.
that
I
you've
think
had,
you can
right?
have the same like. That's okay.
No,
Yeah.
it's against the
You
Skiffy
added-
and Fanny bylaws.
We've had same likes before, and you added stuff to it.
I know. I didn't really.
All right, well, go ahead.
There's
You've
gotta
got to like
be
something
some-
else then.
You liked lots of things. So.
Okay, I'll talk about the actors, which we've kind of mentioned before. Like, to me, I was thinking that John Goodman, Rosie O'Donnell, Perkins, and Rick Moranis were like made for these roles. Rick Moranis especially. He just I've like in my head, I can't even remember while I was watching. I like lost memory of the original. I've seen the Flintstones, and I just like all I now see in my mind is like Rick Moranis because he's so good. John Goodman's so good as Fred. Rosie O'Donnell is so good. They're all really, really fantastic acting choices throughout this film. And I gotta give credit there because like these days we're so aggressive about criticizing every single. I mean, they were a little bit back then too, but now we have the internet, and so everybody like flips out and makes 45-minute YouTube videos about casting choices, which is we're literally going to go through when Amazon finally selects James Bond, right? But like if you watch this film and you just think about actors who could be these characters in a live action movie, so many of the choices they make sense. They're people you could see play these roles. And I was saying in the Discord, like when we watched this live, like there were people that were just born for this. Like it's like it had to happen in 1994 because some of these actors had to have careers big enough that they could do this. They couldn't have done it earlier without these actors. And so yeah, I mean Rick Moranis is brilliant. I love Rick Moranis. Please come back and make good movies. He's just brilliant. And I do like John Goodman a lot, and Rosie O'Donnell and Perkins. I like all of them. It's all great.
Yeah.
Casting's great.
Unfortunately, I think his health precludes it.
Rick Moranis's?
Yeah. I thought that's why he left acting, because he was having...
No, he left acting because his wife passed away, and he decided to focus on his
okay.
kids.
Focus on family. Okay.
Yeah. So,
It's
So to bring it
Go
back to
ahead,
what
Julia.
you were saying about John Goodman and how you thought he was perfect for this part, that's you and Steven Spielberg. Because Amblin Entertainment had the rights to the Flintstones, and this is back in the 80s. And John Goodman was in the movie Always, which Steven Spielberg directed. And when he worked with John Goodman on that movie, he was like, this man is my Fred Flintstone. And he like claimed it in 87 or 88. He was like, this is Fred Flintstone. The Flintstones will happen, and this man will be Fred Flintstone. And John Goodman didn't really want to do it. But also, John Goodman was like, I can't say no to Steven Spielberg.
Correct.
So he did. And he's really good at it. He's a really good actor, and he's really good at being Fred Flintstone. But they originally wanted to do 2 more sequels to this back to back while the sets were still up. And John Goodman came to Steven Spielberg and was like, look, man, I love you, but I'm not going to do this again. I just don't want to be known as Fred Flintstone for my entire life. And I did it once as a favor, but I'm not going to do it again. And so that is why they never made sequels. They only made the prequel, Viva Rock Vegas, with no one from the original cast.
Aww.
Years later. Yeah.
Aww.
But apparently they also considered other people like Bill Murray.
There were a
was
few.
that for and Danny DeVito for Barney?
Danny DeVito was the first choice for Barney Rubble, but he didn't want to do it, and he said that he thought his acting style would be too rough. And there's rumors at least that he suggested Rick Moranis, who really is honestly perfect as Barney Rubble.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis, for his part, apparently said that he wanted to vomit when he heard that Rosie O'Donnell was going to be Betty. So that's disappointing. But apparently, as they were filming, he grew to like and respect her as a choice for the actor to play that role. So I guess he got over it. But like, come on, Rick Moranis, I expect a little better of you than that first reaction.
Well, at least he changed his mind.
Yeah, but still, just come on.
Yeah, but Rosie O'Donnell has that giggle down so perfect.
I think that's one of the reasons why she got the role, was because she was very, very good at imitating Betty's giggle, which is an iconic giggle from the sitcom.
Very good, yeah.
From everything else I've seen her in, I could not imagine her as Betty at all. When I saw who this cast was, actually all of them, I didn't see how it would work. Maybe my imagination is poor, Shaun, but like I didn't see Rick Moranis as Barney at all. I didn't see John Goodman as being Fred at all. And not until I started watching, I was like, wow, these are all perfect for it.
Well, that's the thing, is they, even if you don't believe that they're the right choices, they convince you in the performances.
I mean, they're good. They're all good actors. So, I mean, I guess it's not that surprising. But.
Yeah. Good times. Okay, we can get to dislikes now. So, Daniel, it's your task to start us on the dislike train. Be careful now.
Okay. My dislike is that there are aspects to the movie, and really to the Flintstones in general, that I don't like. And so one is that the Flintstones is really just a ripoff of the Honeymooners. I adore the Honeymooners. I love Jackie Gleason, and Fred Flintstone is always like a poor man's Jackie Gleason to me.
Yeah, but he's for kids. He's for kids.
I know, but...
He can't be like, pow, right in the kisser. Like, he can't do that.
No, but they took most of the plots from this. The idea of, getting the job as an executive in your company and losing your friendship over it, and the fighting between Barney. That's basically Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton. That was a plot of many Honeymooners episodes, including one where Ralph does get a position because Ed does something that Ralph ends up getting credit for, when really the brains behind it is Ed Norton. And so, like, that, the whole mother-in-law exchanges, those are right out of the Honeymooners episodes of Ralph interacting with his mother-in-law. They're so much better and so much funnier with the comedic timing of Audrey Meadows, Jackie Gleason, and I forget the name of the woman the actress who played Ralph's mother-in-law, Alice's mother in the sitcom. And apparently they considered Audrey Meadows for a while to be the role of the mother-in-law in the Flintstones movie before settling on Elizabeth Taylor. But all of those scenes, just because I'm so familiar with the Honeymooners episodes, they drove me nuts of how they took these plots from the Honeymooners but just didn't do them as well. And the other side would be the B-52s. I love the B-52s. I really do like them, but here... it's not the whole B-52s. For one, they're missing one of the singers. And the song is pretty terrible. The Twitch song that they sang. Why did they not do Rock Lobster? Other than it's a long song and they were missing one of their singers, so maybe that's why. But it made me somewhat sad, the B-52's participation in this, because I would have loved to have better B-52s. And like, if this is your only exposure to the B-52s, it makes me sad.
Well, you and I are both in agreement. Because
those were my dislikes of...
I have some good news for you, though. That wasn't the B-52s. That was the BC-52s.
BC,
correct.
Yes, that's right. You are correct.
And I'll agree with you, Daniel, that I wasn't pleased by the BC-52s being in this, but that's because I don't like the B-52s at all.
Okay.
What? Shaun, what is this?
Their songs are stupid. I'm sorry, I can't.
Says the man who loves Mac and me. Okay, whatever.
Yes.
We're going to take that with a grain of salt. The B-52s are great.
Name one good song by the B-52s.
I mean, we've already talked about Rock Lobster, and also you can't forget the iconic Love Shack, which is amazing.
Give me back Cindy Wilson's one in the song that she sings, Give Me Back My Man. That one is amazing.
I'll give you
My Own
Love
Private
Shack.
Idaho?
Only Love
Yeah.
Shack. I'm only giving that to you.
Those...
There are a lot of really good B-52 songs.
That's the
they're actually a
only
really
song.
good band, Shaun.
No.
It's 2 against 1. You're not going to win this one.
It's fine. It's fine. Look, look. At the end of the day, you've all taken your cheap shots about your Mac and me references, and I get it. I get it exactly how you're coming after my juggler with this. Like, I get it, but you can't convince me that the B-52s are a good band. Now, Chumbawamba, on the other hand,
Chumbawamba is a good band. Like, we can agree that both the B-52s and Chumbawamba are good.
They're not mutually exclusive. Yeah.
Chumbawamba are not necessarily good. They're just fun.
Oh no, you just haven't heard really good Chumbawamba then, because they're great. And they made that top 40 hit.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, we should just probably make a top 40 hit. So they did, and it works, and it's a good top 40 hit. But they also have a lot of other music that's experimental in a lot of different ways, and they're solid musicians. They do some really good stuff. If you have not listened to it, I highly recommend the song The Devil's Interval. It's really good.
What do you think, Julie, about the song they wrote about all the people they hope die in a plane crash?
I don't know that song.
It's literally just a list of names of people they hope die in a plane crash.
Okay, well, I don't know that song, so I cannot comment.
Never heard of that one.
I just find that song
Have you
funny.
heard Song for a Future Generation,
Probably?
Shaun? Or Wig?
No.
Okay, after this, go listen to Song for a Future Generation and Wig. And, like, Wig is just so joyful.
Does it have
and
that
fun.
dude singing in it, though?
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
Wig does. Song for a Future Generation, I don't think does.
I
don't think it is Fred Schneider.
I can't with his voice. He makes me think of the guy, every time I confuse him and the guy who does the, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, that song. The bird song.
That was like a one-hit thing.
Bird is the word.
The bird is the word song. Him
yeah.
and the B-52s,
Yeah.
I just think of them as the same thing.
No.
I'm assuming that guy
All
was
right,
his
now
father.
It is... Next dislike.
Yeah, Julia, go.
Okay. So I have 2 different things that I want to talk about really quickly here. One is I agree and disagree with Daniel on not liking the some aspects of the actual Flintstones, which was not originally conceived as a children's show. It was a show for adults. It was put on and during prime time. It was like sponsored by cigarette companies, and it had a laugh track. It was meant to be an animated sitcom for adults, which is why it has adult plot lines about people going to work and stuff that kids just would not care about. It also very blatantly does rip off the Honeymooners, to the extent that they even hired 2 of the writers from the Honeymooners to just write Flintstones episodes. It is clearly the Honeymooners, but what if they were prehistoric? What I don't like about this is the entire premise of the Honeymooners and the Flintstones, which is this very weird sexist heteronormative vision of like man as like caveman king who's going to threaten to hit his wife all the time and is the king of his castle. And this comes out even in the 1994 Flintstones movie, where like there's a lot of those jokes, and then there's like even a point where Fred, at the moment of like really needing to save his child who is going to die, and is like, and the first thing he thinks about is a fantasy of his mother-in-law being eaten by a dinosaur, which he's like smiling and happy about, because the happiest thing for Fred Flintstone to imagine is violence against an older woman, which is just like bleak and depressing to me. And I feel like there's a lot of really bleak and depressing underpinnings of the Flintstones as a whole, which is why I can't say I love them. I think like, yeah, the prehistoric setting is fun, but there's just a lot of like really sad mid 20th century sexist stuff underlying it that I don't love. So that's a really depressing dislike. But the other thing that I want to talk about, which is like a dislike of the general mess that is the story of this movie, which we talked about a bit with like the whole, okay, they want to Special Agent Dale Cooper and Sharon Stone, played by Halle Berry, who was originally supposed to be played by Sharon Stone, but Sharon Stone had scheduling conflicts, so they hired Halle Berry instead. And I think it's even funnier that she's Sharon Stone and she's played by Halle Berry. But Sharon Stone and Special Agent Dale Cooper, who has a different Flintstones name, but I don't care about that, want to like embezzle a bunch of money. And to do this, they say they need to find like the perfect patsy, the dumb guy who's not going to question anything. But in order to find this person, they want the person who scores highest on a standardized test, which doesn't make any sense. And like when they hire Fred, they're like, it's because he's the smartest. But then they want him to fire Barney because Barney is apparently the lowest score, so he's terrible and the dumbest. And it's like, okay, I don't really understand who you're hiring and why. Like Barney did them a solid, like you said, by giving them the dumbest person, so he wouldn't question anything and would go ahead and like sign orders that were for fake companies without checking into it and get himself into trouble. So there's like that, but then there's like a lot of other stuff that just doesn't make any sense. And on the one hand, it seems silly to say it doesn't make any sense because it's literally the Flintstones, so like, why do you care? But on the other hand, it did make watching the movie kind of terrible. And like at times just overly, there was too much action going on, but none of it made sense. There's this whole thing, like also the lynch mob, that I don't love to see a lynch mob at any time, because lynching is a very fraught historical thing that is deeply rooted in racism, and this does not engage with any of that. It's just played for laughs, which is a really weird thing. Don't love that. There's a lot of other stuff about like just generally the plot of this that didn't work. And I think the reason why is because they were like, let's make a Flintstones movie in 1985. And they hired somebody to write a script. And he wrote a script that was like bizarre and they didn't want it. And they're like, we don't want this one. We're going to hire someone else. So they hired the next guy. And he wrote a script that was based on the Grapes of Wrath, where like Fred and Barney lose their jobs, and then the Flintstones and the rebels like travel across the one continent on Earth in a Dust Bowl type situation looking for work. And anyway, the studio didn't go for that one either.
That sounds interesting, though.
So they hired a third person, and this, like, the way that I understand that this happened was the third person that they hired came up with a 4-page summary, and they were like, okay, we'll go with that one. And the direction that they gave this person was like, make it as close to the original show as possible. So he came up with a 4-page summary, and then they hired, like in waves, a total of, I think, 32 different writers to come sit in groups of like 8 to 10 and pitch ideas for jokes and things that would appear in a Flintstones episode. And then at the end of it, they had this script that was written by like at least 32 writers. And it was so fraught that they ended up having to take it to the Writers Guild of America to go into mediation to decide who would be credited for this script. And in the end, they decided to credit the first 3 people who turned in scripts. So the first 2 guys whose scripts were not used at all and don't have any relation to the movie are credited as writers of the movie that we have today. And then there are like 30 writers who have no credit at all, but actually wrote the majority of what we see. And also, like, of course it doesn't make sense. It's not. How could it make sense?
Well, I mean, it could make sense, except then, like, half the plot they want to tie together wouldn't work. Because the whole reason Barney switches the scores is because he wants to do a good thing for his best friend. But
there's so much that doesn't make sense. And I feel like I don't know whether to feel bad for the 30 writers who don't have credits on this as writers, or to feel like they actually just kind of escaped with luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they kind of did to some degree, because to me, the villains are supposed to be conniving and clever, but the only one who, when you think about it, is actually clever is technically Halle Berry, because she's the only one that is using a skill in order to get what she's technically being told to get. Right, that she doesn't ultimately want, because she realizes that actually Fred is, like, really does love his wife, and he's just kind of sexist and stupid.
Which is a really weird thing to decide. Like, she's in it. She's all in on embezzling money and going off to Acapulco with Special Agent Dale Cooper. And then, like, halfway through the movie, she has a random change of heart, because even though she's been trying to get Fred to have an affair with her, when his wife comes, and even though he's obviously really into Halle Berry, when his wife comes, he's like, "Oh, I love my wife." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll still do all of the villain stuff, but at the end I'll say I was very bad, but I was very good at being very bad." Which again just doesn't, none of it makes sense.
No, it doesn't. It
makes sense only to further the plot, and I think they, there's just a collective decision here that it's good enough.
Yes.
To have like one big MacGuffin to make the movie happen.
It's the kind of thing where you shouldn't think about the logic of the film too much, because the second you think about it, you realize, oh, this story is nonsensical, like, completely. Because
to be fair, it's also
no. Hold on. Why would a evil mastermind special agent from Twin Peaks want the smartest person among his workforce to manipulate? You would deliberately go for the dumbest person. And also, I just want to be clear: one of the people that works for you is an orangutan who, as far as we're aware, doesn't even speak. And so, like, why wouldn't you just automatically go, well, orangutan, just get the orangutan to do it, because, like, nobody would suspect the orangutan. No part of this makes sense. It's so silly and ridiculous. The only thing that makes sense is that Barney would do this. He would absolutely do something like this for his best friend, to try to make sure that he can take care of his family and all of these kinds of things. It also makes total sense why Fred gets sort of hopped up in this world, because Fred's ego is like the size of Jupiter, and also as easily popped as a balloon. It's true.
I mean, yeah, I will say they did a good job of making them be very, like, caricatures of humans with flaws.
Yeah.
But really in a sort of, like, classic theater way. Both Barney and Fred felt like real everymans with a flaw.
I mean, that's true. That is very true. Can we just talk, though, a little bit about Bam Bam? Because I'm sure, Julia, you know this, and Annie was there with me live. But
is this your dislike?
No. This has nothing to do with my dislike. It's more just a really fun fact that is absolutely true. They spent 6 months looking for a kid who could say Bam Bam. And they went through hundreds of casting calls, finding the kid who could say Bam Bam just right.
From Iceland?
And they got this kid. Is he from Iceland? Is that where he's from?
It's a set of twins. Both the kids are sets of twins.
No, they're the same kid. That's a lie,
look
Julia.
Icelandic,
You know that.
But
There are two sets of twins, which is very common because
Wait, hold on. Now it's two
laws.
sets of twins?
Yeah, there's sets of
Pebbles.
There's Pebbles.
Oh, got
that's
it.
twins,
Okay.
and then there's Bam Bams. That's twins. Because
Sorry.
kids can only film for a certain amount of hours in a day.
Right.
But if you have a set of twins, you can both of them switch off, and it's fine.
Yeah, obviously I'm joking. They didn't spend 6 months, but it would be really funny if they did spend 6 months on a casting call to find a kid to say Bam Bam. Which I'm not even sure the kid in this actually says the Bam Bam. I think they superimposed a Bam Bam from somewhere else on top of him, because anytime he talks in the movie, his mouth doesn't quite line up to the words he's supposedly saying, including when he says Bam Bam, and it doesn't fit. So I don't know if they've got another. Was it you, Daniel? Was it you that did the Bam Bam?
No, I just realized something that I'm confused over. He says Bam Bam, but his full name, we find out, is Bam Bam Bam.
Correct.
Yeah.
So why doesn't he ever say Bam Bam Bam? Only Bam Bam.
But the same
Because
reason
he just
that my
knows how to say
grandmother.
his first name.
Yeah, well, it's the same reason my grandmother didn't ever say Shaun Michael Duke. She just says Shaun Michael when she's mad at me.
Okay.
Probably.
But how did he get Bam 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 then, if he just says Bam Bam?
He was born in the
presumably,
woods.
Presumably, his family left him in a bundle with a tablet that was etched with "Bam Bam Bam" when the mastodons raised him.
When the mastodons.
That's right. They love him, though, unconditionally, despite the fact that he's kind of a terrible child. I mean,
they were ready to love the orangutan, too.
Wait, Paul in chat has said he wishes Bam Bam Bigelow was in this movie. What? What? Like,
I'm gonna need more explanation.
Is that like Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo? Like, is that the future movie? It's like after Bam goes to college at Rock University?
He's a professional wrestler.
Oh, is that what?
Yes.
Some fan of the show is a hardcore wrestling fan is going to yell
He
at
has
me.
He has a headdress of flames.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know
This is where
that.
my knowledge of wrestling is very low, and I failed to get references.
You and me both, Julia. Can we backtrack to your other thing, Julia, real quick? Because your first dislike was actually going to be my dislike, and now I have to come up with another one.
No, you don't. You can say whatever you want about it.
Well, but I want to talk about it more because I feel like, certainly when I was a kid and I saw this, I definitely didn't notice the sexism because I'm a kid and what the hell do I know? It's 1994. I'm like 11 years old when this comes out. And so I didn't notice. But now when I'm watching this, the more I watch it, I'm just sitting here going, my Lord, the amount of sexism on Fred's part is kind of uncomfortable, to the point where I started getting angry with him. Because I was like, dude, just stop. Like, you don't have to keep doing this. Especially after he gives the speech to Halle Berry about how much he loves his wife. And I was like, you know what you could do to show that you love your wife? Respect her. Listen to her.
I'd like to hope that people like you, when you watch this, might think about how you would like to treat your own wife and how much of a difference there is between that and how Fred, apparently the guy everybody loves, is expected to treat his family.
It's alarming. And when you look at the difference between him and Barney, it's like night and day. Like, Barney is really attentive. You know, he's sweet to his wife, and he listens to her. I mean, he doesn't always agree with her because Fred's his best friend in the world. But like, when she's telling him, right, he actually hears her. He doesn't just immediately dismiss her. Whereas Fred, like anything his wife says, is just like out in one ear, out the other.
Well, we get no context from this in the movie either, but there seems to be the history of this is all because it comes from this sitcom from the 50s, right? But even back then, it it has this underlying idea that there's some kind of societal expectations that the man is supposed to be something in the relationship. And the original sitcom kind of completely pokes holes in that idea, while at the same time still maintaining a lot of sexist ideas in it. But here you're missing all of that sort of background, and you don't have that sense that society at large has sort of this culture that a man is this or a woman is this within a relationship or within a family or within a home. So it just becomes even more problematic in ways.
Yeah. Especially...
And you get that...
Oh, go ahead.
It's the same problem as trying to adapt something from the 50s to modern day period that you're trying to do, where you're trying to still keep these things that were in the original, but taking out all of that cultural context, putting it into a thing that's also referencing, like Julia said, things from the 90s or things from the 80s, where it's incongruous to some degree. It just augments the problematic nature of it, at least to me when I'm watching it, which is why I don't think they should be making, like movies of the Honeymooners now or movies of the Flintstones, because you can't. They were a thing of that time that had problems, but you're just making it worse by trying to make a modern version of it that then still keeps those things.
But the people who made it really loved the original, and it was the thing that they loved. So they were going back to something. I mean, it would be like one of us deciding to remake, I don't know, Mean Girls or something, right? Which we do. We remake like Legally Blonde, the musical, and Mean Girls, the musical, and stuff like that. Today, you see people doing stuff like that. And I think this is basically that for this specific set of people. Now, is it a good thing? I don't think so. But also, it was very popular, and as a kid I did watch the Flintstones on television before I caught the bus to school every morning. So that was because it was syndicated and it was always on, and I liked it. There are a lot of things about it that are fun if you don't think about the realities of the kinds of things that it's teaching people to grow up thinking is normal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay, so I have to come up with another dislike. Oh boy. What is there to dislike about this film? Because other than what we've mentioned, it's kind of perfect. Huh. Well, so I will say this. I'm not... I find the characterization of some of the side characters confusing, because all of their friends, like that they go to the bowling alley with and they hang out with, right, all really like Fred and Barney, and they're people that Fred hangs out with all the time. He like shares things about his life with them, and like they play games together. They're supposed to be best buds, but they don't even seem to like take a second, and Barney doesn't either, take a second to think that Fred didn't knowingly sign the document that got them all fired. And they immediately jump to, as Julie was pointing out, basically to kill him at one point, right? Where they're like chasing him around through the streets. And I felt like that was a little convenient to the story. It's supposed to be comedic, but I found it sort of suggested that the only sort of evolved ones in this story are our main characters, and everyone else is like a caricature of a Neanderthal, which I just found a little ridiculous in this story. I don't understand why a bunch of people that are your friends would just automatically assume you are the worst possible thing we could imagine, and not be like, well, maybe Fred, who we know is not very bright and maybe made a mistake, or he's telling the truth and he didn't knowingly fire all of them. He just signed a document because he wasn't paying attention because Halle Berry bashed her eyelashes at him.
Well, one interesting thing, I guess, that I just realized when you were saying that is that crowd, it was all men, right?
Mm-hmm.
The men in this movie are very, very dumb.
Yes.
Other than the bird, I guess. I'm assuming the bird, Harvey Korman's voice, the Dicta bird, is intelligent, but the men, by and large, are like pretty. They might be kind-hearted, but they're dumb.
Whereas the women are not.
Whereas the women are not at all. The women are the ones that are smart. The women, like Holly Berry, is the one who finally like picks up on that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is a little wonky, but she does pick up that there are nice men out there.
Yeah.
That not everybody's a total dick like Kyle MacLachlan or
Special Agent
Dale Cooper is. Special Agent Dale Cooper is, right? And so the women in this are the ones that are the most human, that have that forgiveness, that have that realization that, hey, yes, these people aren't always perfect. They do wrong things. They have wrong opinions, but it's because they're dumb and they act dumb, not because they're not well-meaning. So this idea that they're doing something shady and not well-meaning is not consistent with that.
Yeah.
They're the ones who pick up on that, right?
Yeah, but the more you think about it, you start to wonder, why aren't women in charge?
Yeah,
Yes,
and this is
but-
consistent with the Flintstones cartoon as well. I think in the Flintstones cartoon, Betty and Wilma are always like, they know what Fred and Barney are getting up to, and it's constantly like Fred and Barney doing something dumb and them being like, stop being dumb.
Yeah, and same honeymooners, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's so ridiculous. Oh man, they should have just had a matriarchy in this world.
Yeah, or a birdarchy.
Oh, honestly, the animals probably should be in charge, and then women next, and then all of the men third.
And the van, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is why the spiritual sequel to this movie is in fact the Barbie movie. Because it basically takes the ideas of this movie and is like, what if women were in charge though? Wouldn't things be better? And takes a beloved property from the 50s that people are all like into, and then is like, but actually women could run the world. What if girls run the world?
Well, I've never seen it, so is it good?
The Barbie movie?
The world that women run.
Well, I mean, you have seen the Barbie movie. If you've seen that, then you can extrapolate from there.
I haven't.
Okay,
I've heard very conflicted things from people about the
I
Barbie
feel like
movie,
that would be an entirely separate 3-hour discussion that we do not have time for here.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
We don't.
Well, so we got to get to our final thoughts and grades.
Okay.
Indeed.
So, Daniel, final thought grade, go.
I enjoyed this movie overall way more than I expected to. I pretty much agree with everybody on likes and dislikes, I think. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I guess I'll give it a C-.
Oh, that's not that bad.
I don't want to watch it again, really, but it was cute. There was more fun to it than I expected. And the acting is so solid, it really raises it up a lot, I would say.
Fair enough.
Yeah, C-.
Julia.
Yeah, basically similar situation. I was going to say C, just kind of solidly in the middle there. I don't also want to watch it again, but I do think it like had enough real creative stuff in it that I can't really knock it all the way down. And then there were the things that I didn't like that made it annoying, that made me not want to revisit it. But like also I respect the work that went into it. And I think that it has some real visual appeal in the sets and the objects. And there are some fun jokes in it. There are some fun references. The Dicta bird is great. The creatures are great. So, C.
Fair. Well, goodness gracious. I thought that I was going to get reamed today, but apparently not. This is not a Mac and me situation because I largely agree that there are, all the things we kind of said about the visuals and, the design and all of that stuff and the acting and blah, 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 right? It has so many wonderful things about it. It also has some really regressive ideology that just, I even was like, okay, Fred, you just gotta stop now. Like, this is enough. Like, you've hit my line. It's move on now. We can just go back, like, learn you're being dumb right now. Let's move on. And that's when I think about this as a film that, this was meant for kids when it came out, this film. Like they advertised this for kids because I saw it as a kid. Would I show this to my kid? And the answer is not as a child. Because I don't want him to find fun and joke and haha funny in disrespecting women. I just got to be honest. Like, and this is it's too much. So for me, I would put it the same with you, Julia. I enjoy it very, very much. There's a lot of fun jokes, all that stuff, but it's a C. It just that stuff brings it down, right? Yeah. Which puts us at like the C.
A C.
Basically a C. C-ish.
Still a C.
Paul's probably doing the hard calculus. Just under a C. Yeah, it's like a C minus-ish.
Because I wavered between C and C minus, so we can say average C.
Yeah. It's not horrible. Like, we've watched some.
We have watched worse things, but also, when I think about what I want kids to really imprint on this, no, I would not.
No.
Do I think it was good that I watched so much of the Flintstones as a kid? Not really.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of the same things as you did. I mean, my grandma wouldn't let us watch Looney Tunes when I was a kid, so the only time I got to see that was when I was at my other grandparents' place. But weirdly enough, my grandma let me watch all the Disney I wanted, and the more I think about every Disney thing I watched, like, there's so much death and dying parents and evil witches and things trying to kill people and, like, weird stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know that Disney was necessarily better for me. I mean, for heaven's sakes, 101 Dalmatians. A woman wants to skin puppies. She wants to skin puppies and make coats. Like,
to
Grandma,
say
what were
nothing
you
of all the
thinking?
smoking that people do.
Yeah, all the smoking. But, like Bugs Bunny, like, goes, what's up, Doc? And then, like, pounds somebody with an anvil. Like, that's too much, Grandma. Like,
all that stuff's good for kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Show them Stephen King, I say.
I think it's just the like casual violence of Looney Tunes that did it for her, whereas at least in Disney, the violence was part of the plot. Whereas, I don't know, Elmer Fudd getting shot in the face with a shotgun is supposed to be funny, and it's not funny in Disney. Anyway. All right. Well, that's it, folks. We're done. We did a show. Yay. So for folks at home or watching us live at the moment, if you'd like to let us know what you thought about the episode, do you have any opinions about the Flintstones, please let us know. You can go to the email, skiffingfanny@gmail.com, or you can join our Discord on Patreon. You can find us on Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon, YouTube, and a bunch of other places. All of those links can be found at skiffingfanty.com/skiffythings. And please catch us every Friday, 7 p.m. Central, on Twitch for our live show format, which is where we're recording this right as we speak. That's at twitch.tv/alphabetstreams. And if you like what we do, please tell everybody you know, and even random strangers on the street. Leave us reviews on your podcast apps and go to patreon.com/skiffingfanny and help us, pay for hosting and the new hard drive that I just had to buy because all of our files are too much for the ones I have. So yeah, it takes up a lot of space. Me, ShaunDuke.net. I'm Alphabet Streams on Twitch, Wednesdays, Sundays, 6 p.m. Central. And then I'm on various socials, ShaunDuke.net/DukeThings.
You can find me, Daniel, at Reading 1000 Lives on Blue Sky, and my blog, reading1000lives.com. It's the numeral 1000, 1000. And, of course, hopefully you're reading the Skiffy and Fanty blog, one of the contributors to that.
Awesome. You can find me over at juliarios.com. I'm on some social media as well, but I don't really post that much, so I don't know if it's worth following me there. But you can look for me. I'm ZOMG Julia on Instagram, and I'm OMG Julia on Blue Sky.
And you do stuff, right?
I do lots of stuff, but you can go to juliarios.com and see what I'm up to.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. As is required by the Skiffing and Fanty bylaws amended on the 1st of this year, we now are not doing awkward endings. We're doing happy endings. And so, in the spirit of the film we just watched, I'm going to say a 3-word statement that all of you will really, really enjoy. Are you ready? Yabba-dabba-doo! And on that note, happy ending and scene.